Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he looked at the mining reports on his screen. The numbers were good. Very good. Kepler Station had pulled more rare crystals from the asteroids this month than any other human outpost in the Outer Rim. The crystals were worth more than gold back on Earth. They made faster-than-light travel possible. "Commander Morrison, we have another shipment ready for transport," said Lisa Parker. She was the best engineer on the station. Her hands were always dirty from working on the mining equipment, but she could fix anything. "How much this time?" Jake asked. 12 tons of refined crystals. The Altarians are paying top price for this batch." Jake smiled. Kepler Station was small compared to the big military bases, but it was important. The crystals they mined here powered the engines of ships across the galaxy. Humans, aliens, everyone needed them. The station floated in the empty space between 3 large asteroids. It looked like a metal flower with 6 arms reaching out toward the mining sites. 200 people lived and worked here. Most were human, but there were also some friendly aliens from the Trade Consortium. Ben Carter sat at the communications desk, listening to the usual chatter from passing ships. Traders, explorers, and the occasional patrol ship would check in as they passed through the system. It was usually quiet out here. That was why Jake liked it. No politics, no wars, just honest work. "Commander," Ben called out, "I'm getting some strange readings on the long-range sensors." Jake walked over to Ben's station. The young man had been at Kepler for 6 months now. He was good at his job and never caused trouble. "What kind of readings?" "Multiple ships, sir. Big ones. Coming. In fast from the galactic north." Jake frowned. No one had told him about any large ships coming through the system. He checked the schedule on his computer. Nothing was supposed to arrive for 3 days. "How many ships, Ben?" "I count at least 50, sir. Maybe more. They're still too far. A way to get a clear reading. 50 ships was a fleet." Jake felt his stomach tighten. Fleets meant military. Military meant trouble. "Send a message to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have unidentified ships approaching our position." "Yes, sir." Jake walked to the main viewing window. Space looked empty and peaceful. But he knew that would change soon. He had served in the Navy before taking this job. He knew what a fleet of 50 ships could do to a small mining station. "Lisa," he called out, "I need you to check all our defensive systems." Lisa looked up from her work. "Defensive systems?" "Commander, we only have 2 laser cannons and some old shield generators." "This is a mining station, not a battleship. I know. Just check them anyway." Lisa saw the worry in Jake's face. She put down her tools and went to the security station. The defensive systems were old and weak. They were meant to destroy small asteroids that might hit the station, not fight off warships. "Ben, any word from Earth Command?" "Not yet, sir. The message will take 4 hours to reach Earth and 4 hours for a reply to come back." Jake cursed under his breath. 8 hours was too long. The approaching fleet would be here in less than 2 hours. "I'm getting a clearer reading now," Ben said. His voice was tight with worry. "Definitely Zephyrian ships, sir. War cruisers and battleships. The Zephyrians." Jake had heard stories about them. They were a proud warrior race that believed they owned half the galaxy. They had sharp claws, red eyes, and tempers that exploded like bombs. They did not like humans very much. "Are they responding to our hails?" Jake asked. "No, sir. They're maintaining radio silence. That was not a good sign. Friendly ships always responded to communication attempts. These ships were coming with bad intentions." Jake activated the station-wide intercom. His voice echoed through all 6 sections of Kepler Station. "This is Commander Morrison. We have an unknown fleet approaching our position. All non-essential personnel should report to the emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill. People began moving quickly through the corridors. Jake watched through the security cameras as workers dropped what they were doing and headed for the reinforced sections of the station. The emergency shelters were built to protect people from radiation and asteroid impacts. He hoped they would. "Be enough, Commander," Lisa called out. "The defensive systems are online, but they won't do much good against a fleet." "I know, but we have to try." The Zephyrian fleet appeared on the visual screens 30 minutes later. Jake had never seen so many warships in one place. They were long and dark, like metal sharks swimming through space. Weapon ports glowed red along their hulls. The largest ship was massive. It had to be their flagship. Jake could see smaller ships spreading out around the station. They were surrounding Kepler Station like hunters surrounding a trapped animal. "Incoming." "Transmission," Ben announced. "Put it on the main screen." The face that appeared was nightmare material. Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire had red eyes that burned with hatred. His teeth were sharp like knives. Scars covered the left side of his face. "Human scum," Vextar snarled. "You pollute our sacred system with your presence. This system belongs to the Zephyrian Empire by ancient right. You have 1 hour to evacuate all personnel." Jake stepped forward. He kept his voice calm and professional. "Admiral, this system has been registered as human territory for 15 years. We have legal mining rights here. There must be some mistake." Vextar laughed. It was a terrible sound. "There is no mistake, human. Your pathetic species stole the system from us. We are taking it back. You have 59 minutes. "Admiral, I need to contact Earth Command to verify." "No," Vextar roared. "You have 58 minutes. Any humans still in this system after that will be destroyed." The transmission ended. Jake stared at the blank screen. His hands were shaking. "Lisa, how many people are still outside the shelters?" 43, sir. They're moving as fast as they can." "Ben, send an emergency transmission to Earth. Tell them the Zephyrians are attacking. Send all the tactical data you can gather about their fleet. Already on it, sir." Jake looked out at the Zephyrian ships. They were beautiful in a deadly way. Smooth hulls covered with weapon systems. He counted over 200 ships now. Some were as big as cities. "Commander," Lisa said, quietly, "we're not going to make it out, are we?" Jake looked at her. Lisa was 26 years old. She had joined the mining service to see the galaxy and make enough money to buy a farm back on Earth. She did not deserve to die out here. "We might," Jake lied. "Help might come." But he knew the truth. The nearest human military base was 6 days away. Even if Earth Command sent ships immediately, they would arrive too late. The countdown continued. 50 minutes. 45 minutes. The Zephyrian ships moved closer. At 30 minutes, Jake made his final decision. All personnel to emergency stations. "Ben, keep transmitting our position and status. If we don't make it, Earth needs to know what happened here." The attack began with no warning. Plasma cannons lit up space like deadly fireworks. The first blast tore through the station's main hull. The second blast destroyed the power generators. The third blast killed Jake Morrison and 38 other people in an instant. Lisa Parker and Ben Carter were in emergency shelter too when the station died around them. The lights went out. The air recyclers stopped working. Through the thick walls, they could hear the sound of metal being torn apart. Ben's hands shook as he activated the emergency transmitter. He spoke into the microphone, knowing these might be his last words. "This is Kepler Station. We are under attack by Zephyrian forces. Commander Morrison is dead. Most of the station is destroyed. They came without warning. They gave us no chance." He paused, listening to the sounds of destruction outside. "Tell Earth, Tell them what happened here. Tell them to send ships. Send the big ones. Make these alien bastards pay. The transmission ended. In the darkness of the emergency shelter, Lisa and Ben waited for death or rescue. They did not know which would come first. Above them, Admiral Vextar watched the destruction with satisfaction. Another human outpost had been eliminated. The galaxy would learn that the Zephyrian Empire was not to be challenged. He did not know that Ben's final transmission had already reached 3 relay stations. The message was racing toward Earth at faster-than-light speed. Soon, very soon, the human government would learn what had happened at Kepler Station. And then Admiral Vextar would learn why attacking humans was the worst mistake he could have made. The news hit Nexus Prime like a bomb going off. Within 6 hours of the attack on Kepler Station, every major species in the galaxy knew what had happened. The trading hub's communication center buzzed with activity as messages flew back, and forth across space. Ambassador Helen Rodriguez sat in her office, reading the reports over and over again. The words never changed, but she kept hoping they would. Jake Morrison was dead. Lisa Parker and Ben Carter were missing, probably dead too. 200 innocent people had been murdered by Admiral Vextar, and his fleet. Helen had known Jake personally. He was a good man who just wanted to do his job and help people. He did not deserve to die like that. "Ma'am," her assistant knocked on the door. "The Galactic Trade Consortium has called an emergency meeting. They want all ambassadors in the main chamber in 1 hour." "Thank you, Marcus. I'll be there." Helen stood up and walked to her window. Nexus Prime stretched out below her like a metal city floating in space. Ships from 100 different worlds docked at the massive station every day. It was supposed to be a place of peace and trade. Now it felt like a place where war was about to begin. The main chamber of the Galactic Trade Consortium was huge. It could hold representatives from every major species in the galaxy. Today, it was packed. Helen could see aliens she had never met before. Everyone wanted to know what would happen next. Chairman Koroth called the meeting to order. The old Altarian looked worried. His blue skin was paler than usual, and his 4 arms moved nervously as he spoke. "We are here to discuss the recent incident at Kepler Station," Koroth said. "As you all know, Zephyrian forces attacked and destroyed a human mining facility. Many innocent people were killed. Minister Thackalon of the Zephyrian Empire stood up. He was almost as scary as Admiral Vextar, with the same red eyes and sharp teeth. But where Vextar was a warrior, Thackalon was a politician. He knew how to use words like weapons. "The Zephyrian Empire regrets the loss of life," Thackalon said. His voice was smooth and fake. "However, the humans were illegally occupying a system that belongs to us by ancient right. We gave them warning to leave. They chose to stay." Several ambassadors began talking at once. The noise filled the chamber. Helen remained quiet, watching and listening. "1 hour is not enough time to evacuate a mining station," said Ambassador Krita of the Centauri Republic. "This was murder, not law enforcement." "The humans have been expanding too quickly," replied Ambassador Mexdan of the Hegemony. "Perhaps this will teach them to respect the older powers in the galaxy." Helen felt her anger growing. These aliens were talking about human lives like they were numbers on a report. They did not understand what they were dealing with. Chairman Koroth raised his hands for silence. "The question before us is how to respond to this incident. The Trade Consortium has always promoted peaceful solutions to conflicts. There can be no peace with thieves and murderers," Thackalon declared. "The humans took what was ours. We took it back. Any species that supports human expansion into Zephyrian space will be considered our enemy." The chamber erupted in angry voices. Some species supported the Zephyrians. Others condemned the attack. A few tried to stay neutral. Helen watched it all with cold eyes. Finally, Chairman Koroth called for order again. Ambassador Rodriguez, the human representative, has been quiet during this discussion. What is Earth's response to these events? Helen stood up slowly. The chamber became silent. Every eye in the room focused on her. She was a small woman compared to most of the aliens present, but something in her manner made them all pay attention. Gentlemen, she said quietly. Ladies, fellow beings of the galaxy. Her voice was calm, but there was something underneath it that made several ambassadors shift uncomfortably in their seats. You speak of ancient rights and territorial disputes. You debate the legal status of mining claims and evacuation procedures. You discuss these matters as if they were simple business transactions. Helen paused, looking around the room. But you are missing the most important fact of all. And what fact is that? Minister Thacklon asked with a sneer. Helen looked directly at him. Her eyes were hard as steel. You killed our people. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Several ambassadors moved restlessly. They could feel something dangerous in the room now. Jake Morrison was a good man, Helen continued. He ran a mining station that provided resources to half the galaxy. Lisa Parker was an engineer who fixed machines and helped people. Ben Carter was a young man who just wanted to see the stars. Her voice grew colder with each word. They were not soldiers. They were not threats. They were workers doing their jobs in a system that legally belonged to humanity for 15 years. And you murdered them because you wanted their crystals. Minister? Thacklon stood up angrily. How dare you accuse the Zephyrian Empire of— Sit down, Helen said quietly. The power in her voice made Thacklon actually take a step back. He sat down without finishing his sentence. I have been Earth's ambassador to this consortium for 8 years, Helen said. In that time, I have always sought peaceful solutions to problems. I have negotiated trade agreements, settled disputes, and built friendships across the galaxy. She walked to the center of the chamber, but some things cannot be negotiated. Some crimes cannot be forgiven. Some actions have consequences that cannot be avoided. Chairman Koroth leaned forward. Ambassador Rodriguez, what exactly are you saying? Helen reached into her jacket and pulled out a small communication device. She pressed a button, and a holographic display appeared above her head. It showed a sleek warship moving through space. 47 minutes ago, Earth Command received the distress signal from Kepler Station. 31 minutes ago, the UE's Vengeance departed Sol System under emergency protocols. The chamber erupted in gasps and worried whispers. Every species in the galaxy had heard stories about human warships. Most thought they were just rumors meant to scare people. Vengeance is commanded by Captain Ryan Mitchell, Helen continued. Some of you may know that name. Captain Mitchell was the human officer who destroyed the pirate fleet at Centauri 7. 43. Pirate ships attacked a convoy of civilian transports. When the battle was over, 43 pirate ships were floating debris. Ambassador Krita whispered something to her aide. Other representatives began talking urgently among themselves. Captain Mitchell and his crew are not diplomats, Helen said. They are not negotiators. They are not interested in ancient territorial claims or legal disputes. She looked directly at Minister Thacklon. They are soldiers. And they are very, very good at their job. Thacklon tried to look brave, but Helen could see fear in his red eyes. One human ship against the entire Zephyrian fleet? Your captain will die quickly. Helen smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Minister Thacklon, let me share some information with you. The U's Vengeance is a Retribution-class heavy cruiser. It carries quantum torpedoes, plasma cannons, and fusion bombs. Its armor can withstand direct hits from battleship weapons. Its engines can outrun anything in your fleet. She pressed another button on her device. Technical specifications appeared on the holographic display. But more importantly, it carries 300 of the most dangerous humans in the galaxy. Captain Mitchell handpicked every member of his crew. They have fought pirates, rebels, and alien invaders. They have never lost a battle. The chamber was completely silent now. Even the ambassadors who supported the Zephyrians looked worried. How? Long until this ship arrives at Kepler Station? Chairman Koroth asked quietly. Helen checked her watch. 67 hours and 43 minutes. Minister Thakkalon stood up again, trying to regain his composure. The Zephyrian Empire is not afraid of one human warship. Admiral Vexstar commands. Over 200 vessels. Your captain is outnumbered. Helen nodded. Yes, he is outnumbered. But you see, Minister, you have made a critical error in your calculations. What error? Helen's smile became even colder. You assume that numbers matter. You think that because you have more ships, you will win. But you are thinking like Zephyrians, not like humans. She turned to address the entire chamber. Let me tell you something about human military doctrine. We do not believe in fair fights. We do not believe in honor in battle. We believe in winning completely and totally, using whatever methods are necessary. Several ambassadors looked uncomfortable. This was not the diplomatic language they were used to hearing. When Captain Mitchell arrives at Kepler Station, he will not engage in a grand battle with your fleet, Minister Thakkalon. He will not line up his ship against yours and fire until one side surrenders. Helen paused for effect. He will hunt your ships one by one, like a wolf hunting sheep. He will use stealth, deception, and overwhelming firepower to destroy your fleet piece by piece. And when Admiral Vexstar finally realizes what is happening, it will be too late. Minister Thakkalon was sweating now. You cannot know this. You are guessing. Am I? Helen pressed another button. A new image appeared showing a destroyed space station. This is what was left of the Crimson Brotherhood's base after Captain Mitchell finished with them. 15,000 pirates lived there. Would you like to see what happened to their fleet? The next image showed debris floating in space. Twisted metal and burning wreckage stretched as far as the eye could see. That was a fleet of 67 ships. Helen said. Captain Ryan Mitchell stood on the bridge of the UE's Vengeance, watching the stars blur past as his ship raced through hyperspace toward Kepler Station. He had been traveling for 3 days, pushing his engines harder than the manual recommended. His crew understood why. Everyone on board had friends who worked at mining stations like Kepler. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster called from her tactical station. We'll drop out of hyperspace in 20 minutes. Thank you, Amy. What do we know about the enemy fleet? Amy pulled up the data on her screen. She was the best tactical officer in the human fleet, which was why Mitchell had requested her for his crew 2 years ago. Intelligence reports at least 200 Zephyrian ships in the Kepler system, sir. Admiral Vexstar's flagship, the Eternal. Glory is a heavy battleship with massive firepower. Most of their other ships are cruisers and destroyers. Mitchell nodded. He had fought Zephyrians before, during the border conflicts near Rigel. They were dangerous opponents, but they had weaknesses. They relied too much on brute force and not enough on strategy. Any word on survivors from the station? Chief Engineer Carlos Rivera spoke up from his station. Sir, we detected some emergency beacon signals from the debris field. It's possible some people made it to the emergency shelters. Mitchell felt a spark of hope. Maybe Jake Morrison and his people were still alive. Maybe there was still time to save them. Dr. Sullivan, what can you tell us about Zephyrian fleet formations? Dr. Kate Sullivan was the ship's xenobiologist and alien warfare specialist. She knew more about enemy tactics than anyone in the human fleet. They prefer overwhelming firepower attacks, Captain. They'll try to surround us and hit us from all sides at once. Their ships are heavily armored, but not very fast. If we can stay mobile, we have an advantage. What about their communications? Standard subspace radio with military encryption. I've been working on breaking their codes during the trip. I think I can jam their communications if needed. Mitchell smiled grimly. His crew was the best in the business. Each person had been chosen for their specific skills and their ability to work under pressure. The Vengeance was not the biggest ship in the human fleet, but it was one of the most advanced. It was built for speed and stealth rather than massive firepower. While alien ships were like giant hammers, human ships were like sharp knives. "All hands, this is the captain," Mitchell announced over the ship's intercom. "We drop out of hyperspace in 15 minutes. When we do, we'll be facing a fleet that has already murdered innocent people. They think their numbers will protect them. Today, we're going to prove them wrong." Lieutenant Danny Brooks and his fighter squadron were already in their ships, waiting in the launch bay. Danny was only 24 years old, but he was the best pilot on the ship. His fighters were small and fast, perfect for hit-and-run attacks. "Dragon Squadron ready for launch, Captain," Danny reported over the radio. "Stand by, Dragon Leader. Wait for my signal." Mitchell looked around his bridge. Amy Foster was running final checks on the weapon systems. Carlos Rivera was monitoring the fusion engines. Dr. Sullivan was listening to enemy radio chatter. Navigator Pete Williams was calculating attack vectors. These people were his family. They had served together for 3 years, fighting pirates and protecting human colonies. He trusted them with his life, and they trusted him with theirs. "Dropping out of hyperspace in 10 seconds, Pete announced. Mitchell gripped the arms of his command chair. "All stations, battle alert, stealth systems active." The stars stopped moving as the Vengeance returned to normal space. Immediately, the main screen showed the Kepler system. What they saw made everyone angry. The mining station was gone. In its place was a field of twisted metal and floating debris. Zephyrian ships filled the space around it, like vultures feeding on a corpse. "My God," Amy whispered. "They completely destroyed it." Mitchell's jaw tightened. He had seen destroyed stations before, but this was different. This had been Jake's home. These people had been civilians, not soldiers. "Sensor report," he ordered. 237 enemy ships, Captain," Pete said. "They're spread out across the system in a standard occupation formation. The flagship is holding position near the debris field." "Any sign of survivors?" "I'm detecting faint life signs from 3 locations in the debris field, sir. Emergency shelters." Mitchell felt relief wash over him. Some people had survived. Now he had to keep them alive long enough to rescue them. "Dr. Sullivan, are you picking up their communications?" "Yes, sir. They're talking about dividing up the salvage from the station. They're also discussing what to do with the survivors." Mitchell's hands clenched into fists. "What are they saying?" "About the survivors?" Dr. Sullivan's face was grim. "Admiral Vexstar wants to execute them as an example to other human colonies." The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what that meant. They had arrived just in time. "Amy, I want targeting. Solutions on the enemy flagship and the 10 nearest escort ships. Carlos, give me maximum power to weapons and shields. Pete, plot us a course that keeps us in their sensor shadows." The Vengeance began to move through the debris field like a ghost. Human stealth technology was years ahead of anything the Zephyrians had. The enemy fleet had no idea death was approaching. "Captain," Amy reported, "I have firing solutions on all primary targets. Quantum torpedoes armed and ready." Mitchell studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian ships were arranged in groups, with the flagship at the center. It was a strong defensive formation, but it had weaknesses. If he could disrupt their communications and coordination, the formation would fall apart. Dr. Sullivan, can you jam their fleet communications? Give me 2 minutes to upload a virus to their command network, sir. Do it. Amy, target the flagship's communication array first. I want Admiral Vexstar cut off from his fleet before he knows we're here. The Vengeance moved closer to the enemy formation. Through the bridge windows, Mitchell could see the massive Zephyrian ships. They were impressive in their own way, but they were also slow and predictable. Communications virus uploaded, Captain, Dr. Sullivan reported. Their fleet network is compromised. Excellent. Amy, fire when ready. The first quantum torpedo left the Vengeance's launch tube in complete silence. It was a small, smart weapon that could change course and adapt to enemy defenses. The Zephyrians never saw it coming. The torpedo struck the Eternal Glory's communication array and exploded in a brilliant flash. Instantly, Admiral Vextar was cut off from his fleet. Direct hit on the flagship, Captain, Amy reported. Their communications are down. Target the escort ships. Fire at will. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for generations. The Vengeance unleashed a devastating barrage of quantum torpedoes and plasma cannon fire. Each shot was perfectly aimed at critical systems. Enemy ships exploded one after another in rapid succession. The Zephyrians tried to respond, but their massive ships were too slow. By the time they turned their weapons toward the Vengeance, it was already gone, attacking from a different angle. 12 enemy ships destroyed, Captain, Amy announced. The rest of the fleet is trying to regroup. Launch. Fighters. Danny, I want you to hit their supply ships and troop transports. Keep them busy while we deal with the heavy cruisers. Copy that, Captain. Dragon Squadron launching now. 12 small fighters shot out of the Vengeance's launch bay like angry wasps. They spread out across the battlefield, targeting enemy ships with precision strikes. Danny Brooks led his squadron in a perfect attack run that destroyed 3 Zephyrian destroyers in less than 2 minutes. Admiral Vextar finally managed to restore local communications on his flagship. His voice boomed across Zephyrian frequencies, full of rage and confusion. All ships, attack the human vessel, surround it and destroy it immediately. But the Zephyrian fleet was in chaos. With their main communications network down, individual captains could not coordinate their attacks. Some ships fired at the Vengeance and missed. Others fired at empty space where they thought the human ship might be. Mitchell used their confusion against them. The Vengeance appeared behind a group of enemy cruisers, destroyed 4 of them with torpedo strikes, and vanished back into the debris field before they could respond. Enemy casualties mounting, Captain, Amy reported with satisfaction. 37 ships destroyed, 15 more heavily damaged. What about their flagship? Admiral Vextar is trying to reach us. He's demanding that we surrender. Mitchell almost laughed. Put him on screen. The view screen showed Admiral Vextar's scarred face. The Zephyrian commander looked furious and desperate. Human ship, this is Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. You are outnumbered and outgunned. Surrender now and I will give you a quick death. Mitchell stepped forward so Vextar could see him clearly. Admiral, this is Captain Ryan Mitchell of the U's Vengeance. I have a message for you. What message? Mitchell's voice was cold as ice. You killed innocent people. Civilians, who were doing nothing but working hard and trying to make a living. You destroyed their home and murdered their friends. Vextar sneered. They were thieves in Zephyrian space. They deserved to die. No, Mitchell said quietly. You deserve to die. And now you're going to. He turned to Amy. End transmission. Target their flagship with everything we have. The Vengeance turned toward the Eternal Glory like a tornado. The news of Admiral Vextar's defeat spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within hours, Every major government knew that a single human warship had destroyed over 70 Zephyrian vessels, including their flagship. The impossible had happened, and the balance of power in the galaxy had shifted forever. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Helen Rodriguez received the battle report in her office. She read it 3 times before she believed it was real. Captain Mitchell had not just won the battle. He had completely annihilated the enemy fleet with surgical precision. "Ma'am," her assistant Marcus entered the room with a worried expression. "We're getting emergency requests for meetings from over 30 alien governments. They all want to discuss new trade agreements and defense pacts." Helen smiled. "I bet they do. Schedule meetings with the Altarians and Centauri Republic first. They were the ones who supported us during the crisis. What about the hegemony and the other species that sided with the Zephyrians?" "Let them wait," Helen said coldly. "They made their choice when they called our people thieves and murderers. Now they can live with the consequences." Meanwhile, in the depths of Zephyrian space, the remnants of Admiral Vextar's fleet limped, home to report their devastating defeat. Emperor Vexgall sat on his crystal throne, listening to Captain Kevtar's report with growing horror. "You tell me that one human ship destroyed 73 of our finest vessels?" the Emperor asked in disbelief. "Yes, Your Majesty. The human ship was unlike anything we had ever seen. It moved like a ghost through space, striking from impossible angles. Their weapons were incredibly precise. They targeted our communication systems first, then picked us apart ship by ship." Emperor Vexgall's red eyes burned with rage and fear. The Zephyrian Empire had built its reputation on military might. If word spread that humans could defeat them so easily, other species would start to challenge Zephyrian authority. "What of Admiral Vextar?" "Dead, Your Majesty. His flagship was destroyed with all hands. The human captain showed no mercy." The Emperor stood from his throne and paced around the great hall. His advisors watched nervously as their ruler considered the implications of this disaster. "Send a message to the human government," he finally ordered. "Tell them the Zephyrian Empire wishes to discuss peace terms." Back on Earth, President Sarah Johnson received the Zephyrian peace offer in the White House Situation Room. General Robert Hayes, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, sat beside her as they reviewed the message. "They're scared," General Hayes observed. "One battle, and they're already asking for peace talks." "Can you blame them?" President Johnson replied. "Captain Mitchell's report makes for interesting reading. He destroyed their fleet without losing a single ship. The Vengeance took some damage, but nothing serious. Captain Mitchell's tactics were flawless." President Johnson leaned back in her chair. "The question is, what do we do now? This changes everything." "Ma'am, with respect, I think the galaxy needs to understand what happened at Kepler Station. Other species need to know that attacking human civilians has serious consequences." The President nodded. "Draft a response to the Zephyrians. Tell M will consider peace talks. But first, they need to pay reparations for Kepler Station and formally apologize for the attack." While diplomats negotiated, the survivors of Kepler Station were recovering aboard the UES Vengeance. Lisa Parker sat in the ship's medical bay, still trying to process everything that had happened. Dr. Kate Sullivan checked her vital signs for the 3rd time that day. "How are you feeling, Lisa?" Dr. Sullivan asked gently. "Better, I think. It's hard to believe we're still alive. When those ships started shooting, I thought we were all going to die. Captain Mitchell tells me you and Ben managed to get critical intelligence to Earth Command before the attack. That information helped us plan our assault." Lisa nodded. "Commander Morrison made sure we had everything we needed. He saved our lives by getting us to the emergency shelter." Dr. Sullivan finished her examination. "You're going to be fine, Lisa. Physical injuries will heal quickly. The emotional trauma might take longer." I keep thinking about all the people who didn't make it. Good people who just wanted to do their jobs and go home to their families. I know. But you survived, and that means their sacrifice wasn't meaningless. The galaxy is going to remember what happened at Kepler Station for a very long time. In the ship's communication center, Ben Carter was helping Dr. Sullivan analyze the Zephyrian battle recordings. His expertise with alien communication systems proved invaluable in understanding how the enemy fleet had operated. Look at this. Ben pointed to a section of the recording. Right here, you can see the exact moment their command network collapsed. When Captain Mitchell destroyed their flagship's communication array, the entire fleet lost coordination. That was the key to the whole battle. Dr. Sullivan agreed. Without Central Command, they couldn't respond effectively to our attacks. Scary thing is how easily we broke their encryption. Human computer systems are years ahead of theirs. Dr. Sullivan nodded thoughtfully. That's something the galaxy is going to have to accept. Human technology has advanced rapidly in the last 20 years. We're not the primitive species that other aliens remember. Captain Mitchell entered the communications center, carrying a datapad with new orders from Earth Command. Ben, Lisa, I have some news for you. Earth Command wants you both to testify before the Galactic Trade Consortium about the attack on Kepler Station. Testify? Lisa asked. What do you mean? The government wants the galaxy to hear first-hand accounts of what the Zephyrians did. Your testimony will be broadcast to every major world in known space. Ben looked uncomfortable. Captain, we're not politicians or soldiers. We're just technical people. That's exactly why your testimony will be so powerful, Mitchell explained. You'll tell the truth about what happened, without any political spin. The galaxy needs to hear that. 3 days later, the U.E.'s Vengeance arrived at Nexus Prime. News crews from dozens of species waited at the docking bay to get footage of the ship that had destroyed a Zephyrian fleet. Captain Mitchell walked down the gangway first, followed by his crew and the 2 survivors. The press conference that followed was broadcast to over 1 trillion beings across the galaxy. Lisa Parker and Ben Carter sat at a table facing cameras and reporters, telling their story in simple, honest words. Commander Morrison was a good man, Lisa said into the microphones. He ran a mining station that provided resources to the entire galaxy. When the Zephyrian ships arrived, he tried to negotiate. He asked for time to contact Earth and verify their territorial claims. They gave us 1 hour to evacuate, Ben added. 1 hour to abandon everything we had built and leave our home forever. When Commander Morrison asked for more time, they started shooting. The reporters pressed for details about the attack itself. Lisa's voice shook as she described the final moments. The station's hull was torn apart in seconds. Most of the people died instantly. Commander Morrison made sure we got to the emergency shelter before the plasma cannons hit the command center. He died saving us. What was it like waiting in the shelter? Asked a reporter from the Altarian Broadcasting Network. We thought we were going to die, Ben replied honestly. The air was running out. We could hear the Zephyrian ships moving around outside, salvaging equipment from the wreckage. We knew they would find us eventually. Then Captain Mitchell arrived, Lisa continued. When we heard human ships fighting outside, we started to hope again. The battle was incredible. We could feel the explosions through the station's debris. The press conference continued for 2 hours. By the end, there was not a dry eye in the press corps. The simple, honest testimony of 2 survivors had done more to change galactic opinion than any diplomatic speech could have managed. That evening, Ambassador Helen Rodriguez hosted a reception for representatives from friendly governments. The mood was dramatically different from the emergency session just days before. Ambassador Rodriguez, Chairman Korath of the Trade Consortium, approached her with a glass of Altarian wine. I must admit, I underestimated human military capabilities. We tried to warn you, Helen replied diplomatically. Captain Mitchell has quite a reputation in human space. Indeed, the Centauri Republic would like to discuss a mutual defense treaty with Earth. We believe our species could benefit from closer cooperation. I'll forward your request to Earth, Chairman. I'm sure President Johnson will be interested. Similar conversations were happening all around the reception hall. Species that had never paid much attention to humanity were suddenly very interested in becoming friends and allies. Not only the representatives of species that had supported the Zephyrians looked uncomfortable. They stood in small groups, talking quietly among themselves and occasionally glancing nervously at Ambassador Rodriguez. The message was clear. The galaxy had learned that humans were not to be trifled with. The age of human military dominance had begun, and smart governments were already choosing sides. Later that night, Helen Rodriguez sat in her office, composing a report for President Johnson. The political implications of the Kepler Station incident were still unfolding, but one thing was certain. Humanity's position in the galaxy had changed forever. The destruction of Admiral Vextar's fleet has sent shockwaves through every major govern. 6 months after the Battle of Kepler Station, the galaxy looked very different. What had started as a simple mining dispute had reshaped interstellar politics in ways no one could have predicted. The human species, once considered a minor player in galactic affairs, now sat at the center of a growing alliance that spanned half of known space. Captain Ryan Mitchell walked through the corridors of the newly constructed Kepler Memorial Station. The facility had been built on the exact spot where the original mining station had been destroyed. It served as both a monument to the victims and a clear message to anyone who might consider attacking human civilians again. Captain Lisa Parker approached him with a datapad in her hands. She now served as the station's chief engineer, having requested assignment to the memorial facility. The new defensive systems are fully operational. If anyone tries to attack this station, they'll face quantum torpedo batteries and plasma cannon arrays. Good, Mitchell replied. This place will never be defenseless again. Ben Carter joined them from the communication center. He had also requested assignment to the memorial station, wanting to honor Commander Morrison's memory by continuing the work they had started together. Captain, we're getting reports that the Zephyrian peace delegation has arrived at Earth. Emperor Thexcall himself is coming to sign the treaty. Mitchell nodded. The Zephyrian Empire had been negotiating surrender terms for months. The destruction of Admiral Vextar's fleet had broken their military power and forced them to accept human demands for reparations and territorial concessions. Any word on the other negotiations? The Altarian Republic and Centauri Federation have both agreed to join the new human alliance, Lisa reported. That brings our total membership to 17 species across 43 star systems. The human alliance had been President Johnson's idea. Rather than simply punishing enemies, Earth had chosen to build a coalition of species committed to peaceful trade and mutual defense. The alliance was growing rapidly as more governments realized the benefits of human protection and technology. On Earth, President Sarah Johnson stood in the rose garden of the White House, preparing to sign the most important treaty in human history. The Zephyrian Peace Agreement would formally end hostilities and establish new boundaries between human and Zephyrian space. That Emperor Thexcall stood beside her, no longer the proud warrior who had ordered the attack on Kepler Station. The Zephyrian leader looked older and more tired than his years. The defeat of his fleet had cost him much of his political support at home. President Johnson, the Emperor said quietly, I want you to know that Admiral Vextar acted without my direct orders. The attack on your mining station was an unauthorized escalation. President Johnson looked at him carefully. Your Majesty, whether you ordered it or not, it happened. People died. That cannot be undone. I understand. The Zephyrian Empire accepts full responsibility for the incident. We will pay the agreed reparations and respect all human territorial claims. And in return, we will not seek further military action against your empire. The Human Alliance believes in justice, not revenge. The treaty signing ceremony was broadcast live across the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as the human president and Zephyrian emperor put their signatures on the document that would reshape interstellar law. But the most important moment came when President Johnson spoke directly to the camera. Let this day be remembered not as a victory of one species over another, but as the beginning of a new era of cooperation among the stars. The Human Alliance extends an open invitation to any species that shares our commitment to peace, trade, and the protection of innocent life. On Nexus Prime, Ambassador Helen Rodriguez watched the ceremony from her office. The trading station had become even more important as the center of Human Alliance diplomacy. Representatives from dozens of species came there every day to negotiate treaties and trade agreements. Ma'am, Marcus entered with another stack of requests for meetings. The Hegemony of Worlds has formally requested admission to the Human Alliance. Helen raised an eyebrow. The Hegemony had been one of the most vocal supporters of Zephyrian actions during the original crisis. They're offering to share their advanced terraforming technology as part of the membership package, Marcus continued. Schedule a preliminary meeting for next week, Helen decided. But make it clear that Alliance membership requires a commitment to our core principles. No species that attacks civilians will be admitted. A transformation of galactic politics was remarkable. Species that had once competed for resources and territory were now working together under human leadership. The Human Alliance had become the fastest-growing political organization in the galaxy. But perhaps the most significant change was in how other species viewed humanity itself. The old stereotype of humans as primitive newcomers had been completely shattered. Now humans were seen as technologically advanced, militarily powerful, and diplomatically sophisticated. Dr. Kate Sullivan, now serving as Earth's chief xenological advisor, published a report on the psychological impact of the Kepler Station incident on alien populations. The destruction of Admiral Vextar's fleet demonstrated human military superiority in a way that no amount of political posturing could have achieved, she wrote. More importantly, it showed that humans are willing and able to protect their own people, regardless of the odds against them. The report went on to analyze how different species had reacted to human military capabilities. Warrior cultures like the Zephyrians now view humans with a mixture of fear and respect. They understand that we possess superior technology and tactics. Peaceful species like the Altarians see us as potential protectors against aggressive neighbors. Even neutral governments recognize that alliance with humanity offers significant advantages. But the report also contained warnings about the responsibilities that came with such power. As human influence grows, we must be careful not to repeat the mistakes of other galactic powers. The temptation to use military force to solve political problems will be strong. However, our long-term success depends on maintaining the moral authority that comes from protecting the innocent and promoting peaceful cooperation. Captain Mitchell finished his inspection of Kepler Memorial Station and returned to the UES Vengeance. His ship had become famous throughout the galaxy as the vessel that had avenged the massacre of innocent civilians. Wherever the Vengeance traveled, it was greeted with respect and sometimes fear. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster approached him on the bridge. Earth Command is offering you a promotion to Admiral and command of the new Fifth Fleet. Mitchell considered the offer. The Fifth Fleet would be the Human Alliance's primary rapid response force, ready to deal with any threats to member species. What would my mission be? Patrol the Outer Rim territories and respond to calls for assistance from Alliance members. Basically, you'd be doing what we did at Kepler Station, but on a larger scale. Mitchell looked out at the stars through the bridge windows. Somewhere out there, other innocent people might be facing threats from aggressive neighbors. The galaxy was a dangerous place, and the human alliance needed strong defenders. "Tell Earth Command I accept the promotion," he decided. "But I want to keep the Vengeance as my flagship. This ship has earned its reputation." "Yes, sir." "I think Captain Jake Morrison would approve of that decision." On the anniversary of the Kepler Station attack, memorial services were held throughout. Human Alliance Space. Lisa Parker and Ben Carter spoke at the ceremony on the memorial station, remembering their fallen friends and colleagues. Commander Morrison and the others who died here were not soldiers, Lisa told the gathering. They were workers, engineers, and miners who just wanted to do their jobs and go home to their families. They died because someone decided that human lives didn't matter. But their deaths were not meaningless, Ben added. They showed the galaxy what happens when you attack innocent humans. They proved that we will never abandon our own people, no matter how dangerous the rescue might be. The memorial service was attended by representatives from every Human Alliance member species. Totarians, Centauri, and dozens of other races stood together to honor the human dead. Ambassador Helen Rodriguez gave the closing speech, speaking not just to the assembled mourners, but to the galaxy as a whole. "A year ago, we were a small mining outpost on the edge of human space. Today, we are the center of the largest peaceful alliance in galactic history. This transformation did not happen because we sought power or conquest. It happened because we refused to let evil go unpunished." She paused, looking out at the mixed crowd of humans and aliens. "The lesson of Kepler Station is simple. Attack innocent humans, and annihilation follows. But there is another lesson that is equally important. Stand with humanity, and you will never stand alone." The Human Alliance continued to grow. By the end of the first year, it included 26 species and controlled over 60 star systems. Trade flourished between member worlds. Scientific cooperation led to breakthrough discoveries. Military cooperation ensured that no member species faced threats alone. The Zephyrian Empire, meanwhile, struggled with internal problems. The loss of their fleet had weakened Emperor Dexcal's government, and several provinces had declared independence. Some of these breakaway red